Football with friends is fun as hell. My name is Alex Dunlap here with Cody Carpentier on a big Tuesday. So pumped to be here with you on Orange Bloods Live. Cody, do we have a problem with Texas A&M and NIL?
I think we might.
I mean, Texas A&M has now signed a 15-year agreement with their NIL stuff, and the company that they have signed it with. What is the name of the company?
Playfly Sports.
Playfly Sports. I go and I look into them, and I can't even honestly. I have a hard time even figuring out exactly what they do. It's one of these websites. It's like it's clear that they do something because they have contracts with a bunch of big schools, Penn State, LSU, Auburn, a couple of these others. But all it is you just hear this stuff about leveraging brands and fan engagement and all this stuff, just all the buzzwords that you get from your typical consulting companies. What is going on? What does this mean with the 15 years being locked in? You wrote about it in your Behind Enemy Lines column today. I didn't get a chance to read it because unfortunately somebody crashed into my car when I was taking my wife to go get a rental car because her car is in the shop. And so I had to deal with a bunch of stuff with that today, along with our meetings and the modcast. So I didn't get to read it, but I think that you probably have some stuff in there about Nagy that we also discussed about OU, A&M. But the A&M stuff, I'm still kind of trying to wrap my head around it, what this NIL deal means. What do we have going on here?
So I dug a little deeper into the Nagy side of things for Oklahoma. We can talk about that in a minute. But the A&M side, it feels like it's been a focal point of conversation in the college football space, big show to little show. Everyone's just like, well, what? Texas A&M's got a disadvantage. Like they've got all this money. Where's the question I got is where's the money like come from? What's it for? Where's it going? All this other stuff. And basically Playfly Sports, down to the bones. It's a sports, it's labeled a sports marketing media technology company focused on delivering innovative digital-driven solutions for fan engagement and monetization, right? So
okay, so I mean,
it's a super marketing company essentially that just knows modern technology. That's the best way to put it. And some of the I had some help from my good friend Grok on like of kind of dumbing down and easily cutting the company up into specified pieces, right? So there's sponsorship and advertisement management, which is like radio rights, game broadcasting related to programming. Like think about like the scoreboard at a game.
They own all the multimedia rights to Texas for the next 15 years, right?
So 15 years, $515 million is the deliverable for Texas A&M, and these guys get all the contracts, right? And I don't quite understand if this means that they're going to deliver on $515 million over the course of the next 15 years. If this means that they're fronting A&M $515 million, and then everything that they create over the next 15 years, over 515 is like their profit. I don't quite know or understand that part of it. But
I would just think, and this is just my guess, I would think that if it is a company where it's like they're going to go, if they're saying that they are going to have dominion over every aspect of Texas A&M's multimedia rights, what I would think, and they talk about things like fan engagement, and they talk about this, I would think what that would be is it would be one, bringing advertisers and brands to the table that they feel like would mesh well with the branding of Texas A&M, right? And then they would probably just take a cut of that sponsorship deal, right? I would imagine that's kind of, or they would create experiences for fans that were brought to you by
that. Well, that's what I'm getting to, like in the depth of this is that. But what I'm trying to say is I don't know from a number standpoint, 15-year, $515 million, if that means that the 515 is a deliverable on day one, or if it's something that they're going to curate over the 15 years. They say like, oh, it's going to add this additional $14 million or what is it, $15 million per year to their.
They say it's going from 22 million to 34, like 12 extra million a year.
Correct.
So as far as their
18 to 34.
Okay, so 16.
Again, that's a like APY thing, average per year. It's going from a projected 18 to projected 34. What I'm saying is I don't know, and I haven't quite got to that point where I don't quite know if that's a deliverable on day one, like the $515 million is there on day one, if they're getting that additional 16 every single year on like the first, for example, or if it's cut up over time, or if it's just a, hey, we are guaranteeing you we will deliver $515 million worth of, like I said before, sponsorships and advertising on examples, radio, game broadcasts, scoreboards, banners, athletic department websites, social media, commercial growth strategies, name, image, likeness. They've said that they have a key focus on enhancing A&M's NLI ecosystem. They will find and grow approved fair market NIL deals for student athletes, meaning they'll broker sponsorships and partnerships that athletes can monetize, leveraging Aggie brand to boost their potentials, their earning potentials. I don't know if that means that that's money that they're guaranteeing, right? This is the one question I have with this whole thing. I can explain more and more and more, and I'll continue to go through this, but the number itself, 515 million, I don't know if that's how that's a deliverable or if that's something that's just a number they're saying they will fulfill.
It's $515 million to own their multimedia rights for 15 years.
Correct.
Yes, but but as I think what the deal is, as far what I care, I don't care. I care about the NIL money that A&M is going to have, right?
But before we get into that, though, they're like, to compare it to other schools around the country, Penn State signed a similar deal with Playfly in 2023, 15 years, $335 million. Nebraska signed one in 2022. That was 15 years, $301 million. Central Florida signed a 13-year, $125 million. Baylor signed a 10-year, no money disclosed. Virginia Tech, a 10-year, no money disclosed. USC was one of the first schools to sign. Nothing's disclosed on that one, as well as Maryland, Michigan State, Auburn, Virginia, Florida Atlantic, UTSA, to name a few. And just to tie this together, people are saying, well, what does this mean? Well, most of the teams had contracts with Learfield as their
Texas does, right?
Yes. So most of the teams in college football had a deal with Learfield for their marketing and stuff. And the deals with Learfield are all expiring. That's why you're hearing all these new marketing deals. We're like, well, there had to be one before that, right? So Learfield was that. And for the Aggies, Learfield's contract expires on June 30th of this year. And for the Longhorns, their contract with Learfield expires on June 30th of this year. So when I got to the end of doing the research for this, I'm basically telling myself that, well, the Aggies just got their deal, 15 years, $515 million, and their current Learfield one expires the same day that Longhorns one does. And within the research, there was some verbiage that said, this is, again, according to Grok and all the research that it did across the sites, the academic year end is a standard expiration point for such contracts, and this timing fits with the shift to Playfly starting July 1, 2025, as being speculated in fan discussion and inferred from industry norms. That is how Grok has inferred that the Longhorns are also in conversations with Playfly. I'm not reporting this. I'm just relaying this. I haven't dug into that depth. I haven't talked to anybody with knowledge of that. But I would infer, based on all the stuff that I've gotten through, that the Longhorns are probably going to be signing a contract sooner rather than later with Playfly Sports.
Not if they don't give them $750 million.
So that's my question. So what would that number be? Because some of the things that like are in the conversation here within the sales team deployment is they'll deploy a mix of local, regional, and national sales teams with a strong presence in the Texas Triangle, DFW, Houston, San Antonio, and Austin. These teams will pitch Aggie athletic brands, leveraging Texas A&M's 80,000 students and vast alumni network to secure high-value deals. I wonder if it's a conflict of interest in things like that to have competitive, or if that's just a natural competitive thing, where there'll be a billboard that says, come to College Station. I don't know. I don't live in the Texas Triangle like y'all do. I don't know if there's literally, a billboard that says Baylor, a billboard that says Texas A&M, and a billboard that says Texas on the same road within the same quarter mile, right? I'm assuming.
I mean, most of most of the billboards around here from non-profit groups and injury attorneys. Yeah, Buc-ee's buys everyone for about 100 miles before your next Buc-ee's is up. To be honest, I don't really see many stuff. The stuff I see for universities, it's always just like, for somebody's online MBA course or things like that. I don't see any, certainly not much NIL stuff or, not much of this stuff that, like you were describing earlier, as far as, the sponsorships or the advertising management and things like that. I wonder though, it's like people, the reason I wanted to talk to you about it is because you just did the column about it and I don't understand it that well. I'm beginning to understand it. Okay. It was like, man, whenever I was watching some of the videos on the day that this was announced of like Billy Lucci from Texags and a few other Texas A&M sites, and then some people that weren't even not even tangentially related to A&M, saying like people don't realize what a big deal this is, or what this is going to change. You got to adapt in the new age of college football and all this stuff. And I'm just like, well, if Texas's multimedia rights deal is about to expire as well, they're going to be in better position than not to sound like a Texas homer, but the University of Texas brand is a more iconic, more valuable, higher end, more luxury brand than Texas A&M. It just is by any measurable. I think that A&M fans would grudgingly admit the same, right? And so it's not any, like, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just trying to say brass tacks here. If that's the case, so Texas, if this is the market, and if this is how things are rolling out, and if there are power players out there that have this kind of capital that they're willing to invest into what they see is a boom coming to college football, as far as visibility, as far as popularity, all the rest of it, right? And they're like, these contracts only come around so often. We got to lock in the iconic brands. I don't think how is this any major paradigm shift for Texas? They have Chris Del Conte in charge. They're gonna have somebody come in and they're gonna say, dude, A&M just got $515 million over 15 years. My first thing is this: if there's also something about being kind of like a first adopter or like a beta user, with something where it's like 15 years
seems like a long time, doesn't it?
Is we gonna really do that? We're gonna be the canaries in the coal mine that go with this 15-year thing. By the end of that deal, it could feel like a noose around your neck. Because of how things are changing so quickly right now in college football. Like in 15 years, the rules could be different. The sport could be, the governing structures of the sport could be completely different. The ways that you're allowed to monetize certain things could be totally different, to where it's like there could be unforeseen consequences to this thing that looks so good right now. And, in like 7 years, it could feel like an albatross.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Chris Del Conte might take the long view whenever it comes time for their multimedia rights and say, look, we're going to, on an annual basis, we're going to get more money for this. That's going to come into our NIL funds, and we're going to do better than any other, it'll be the Texas of the world, the Ohio States and the Michigans and the true blue bloods who are going to get these deals that are just the monster. They're not going to get left in the dust with all this stuff. And to me, honestly, if schools like Texas A&M and Baylor and Auburn are doing it and they're going in whole hog, it might be the time to tap the brakes a little bit and say, like, look, we're not gonna get in on this fever dream euphoria stuff. We're gonna make sure that we stay nimble, and we're not getting locked into anything that could lock us into any weird stuff in this radically changing landscape of college football. When they say that this deal fundamentally changes everything, from what I'm hearing from you, it's not like it fundamentally changed anything. It's just that Texas A&M now has announced that they've signed a big deal, the likes of which Texas is about to sign a bigger one. And I would say, honestly, just my opinion, knowing very little about it, but just going on the premise of if the Aggies and Auburn and also Rans like Baylor are going whole hog into this thing right now, maybe it shouldn't be the thing that you're going whole hog into.
Yeah.
I
can't find any contractual information about the deals with Learfield, other than saying that they were 10-year deals and estimated payouts. So I can't talk about previous deals other than what they were inferred as from the internet. But I think Playfly's been around long enough. I wish we knew the
they've
number.
only been around since 2020, Cody. And you're signing a 15-year deal with this company. It's been around 4 years.
But what I'm saying is, like, they've had USC since 2020. They've had Nebraska for 3 years now. They've had Penn State for 2, UCF for 2, Baylor for 2, VT. Like, I think that this one obviously gets the conversation point because it's $500 million and it's A&M, where it's like one of the actual top end feeders and Well, I wonder when Ohio State's contract is up.
I don't know.
Because like Ohio, like who are the other schools that you think of when you think of like A&M, Texas, Ohio State?
I don't think A&M does not belong in that. It's like
from a I understand this where you're coming from, but like from like an endowment standpoint, isn't A&M up there? A&M's in that conversation.
Oh, well, I mean, okay. I consider the schools that I would consider, just if we talk about endowments, I don't know. Probably Harvard has a bigger endowment than all of them, so I don't know about doesn't Texas have the largest endowment of any public school, or is that Michigan?
I think it might be. I think we looked this up a couple months ago. I think it was Michigan.
Okay. Well, I mean, Texas is up there. But as far as just the premier brands, right? The premier brands in college football, those are, or college just athletics, right? Those are Texas, Michigan, Ohio State, USC, Notre Dame, Alabama, maybe Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I kind of think that's the end of list. I know you always say Nebraska is one of these blue bloods. I've never thought that.
I mean, I think they are.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I hate to say it. I'm not trying to. The question is it time to worry about Texas A&M?
So
NIL. I'm just like, why would you worry? Why would you whatever? If Texas is out of their deal right now too, all that did is serve basically. For Texas fans, you should just think to yourself, all right, Texas A&M just got the bidding war started for what these companies are going to have to go, and they're going to have to go above and beyond to get Texas. Texas is going to have more money out of this thing.
Yeah.
These A&M fans are happy about having their $34 million. It's like Texas is going to have $36 million or whatever. It's like
it's 40.
Yeah. So it is what it is. Like if you were worried about it and you think it is the trigger of some giant sea change in college football, yes, there is a giant sea change going on in college football, but this is not the harbinger of bad things to come for Texas as it relates to recruiting or NIL or anything else like that vis-a-vis Texas A&M.
Would you say that you are significantly, vastly, or extremely more worried about Jim Nagy as the general manager of the Oklahoma Sooners than you are of this NIL announcement with the Aggies?
What I'm most worried about is it's been windy as can be today around Lakeway, Bee Cave, Texas, Spicewood, all that stuff, and I'm worried that the refrigerators might have gone down to Texas beef traders.
Oh, that would not be good.
Can you imagine that?
We'd have to go.
I texted Darren earlier. I'm like, did the power go out, man? Because they said, Texas Beef Traders is located right there off of Loman's Crossing and 620. We're getting we're getting winds out here with gusts of up to 60 miles per hour. And so there are a bunch of trees down, a bunch of limbs down, a bunch of power lines down. And Cody, when I was out kind of trail running earlier today, this is not a lie, dude. When I got to the end on the spot where it overlooks the lake, and there's the little cut through there where there's the big fall down the side, the wind came so much down the ridge, bro. It was like it actually moved my body like towards the ledge, and I go, oh my god, is this wind gonna knock me over the ledge, right? But they said that the Lomas Crossing, there were 600 customers that lost power. And I was like, dude, if the coolers go out at Texas Beef Traders, I might need to go up there and help Darren get some of that meat out and preserve it. I texted him earlier, and he said that he hasn't got back to me yet. So hopefully everything's fine up there. It's always a great time though. Make sure and go to Texas Beef Traders. All the best beef. It's the good news is if all the beef there goes bad, there's a brand new shipment coming in tomorrow. Right from there's 3 new shipments, right? One from Mason, which is the Angus beef, one from Gatesville, which is the Iron Table Wagyu beef, and then of course the great Piedmontese beef from Lukenbach. And it's like going to the farmer's market, man, except you get to hang out with the wildest kind of Texas cowboy hippie you've ever met in your life, man. Darren up there at Texas Beef Traders, and he's going to take care of you. Whether you want to drink some wine, drink some beer, cook up a steak, cook up a Wagyu hot dog, whatever, man. Just go with the flow. Go have some fun. Texas Beef Traders, TexasBeefTraders.com. And if you just want to have him bring it to your house, just take your 10% off. You get 10% off whenever you tell them that you've heard about them, hear from us. And if you live in the Austin area, Darren will just bring it to your house. All right. It's about as easy as it comes. Also, we have above the QR code for the beef jerky. Do we know whether Tyler is still putting the beef jerky link in the description?
I have not looked. I can look.
Do you know how to add to the description?
Of course I do.
Okay, so Cody will add the link in the description below. Please buy the beef jerky. It's delicious. We have 4 flavors. It's Cody and I's flavors, man. It's our beef jerky. Football with Friends beef jerky is indeed tasty as hell. Go check it out. There's the QR code up there. It helps us out for every bag that you buy. All right. Now, yeah, I'm more worried about Nagy. I might be more worried about Nagy than I am about this windstorm and these coolers going down.
I mean, I would be. I know we talked about it last week, but it was kind of like in a flurry at the combine that news kind of broke. And I guess I found myself, I didn't really like put any news or information from the Oklahoma site in there as much as I just kind of did a little bit more research into Nagy to kind of just give a fair bit of analysis on who he is and why I believe this is going to be and unfold the way it's going to unfold, and be as nonpartisan as possible about it. In that, I think it's one of the best hires in the sport of football at any level, one of the best in the last couple of years. And that may be seen as like an overreaction. I have no ties, no connection. I've never had no connection to Nagy, other than we go to his Senior Bowl the last couple of years and watch it. But I think when you take 1,000-foot view of the Oklahoma program and how it's been the last couple of years, where Venables went 6-7, they won 10 games, they go 6-7 again this past year. I think back in November, there was a lot of conversation, November, December, a lot of conversation about, this is the Charlie Strong years at Oklahoma. This is, how many we're 365 days away from Venables being fired. Like, there's no way he makes it through the 2025 season. But somehow they're still able to attract a Michael Fasusi to Oklahoma. Somehow they're still able to get some nice recruits. They're able to get a John Mateer who has potentially 2 years left in his contract, or left in his. Gosh, I totally just said that.
Well, it'll be like that soon, maybe.
I know, but like it just rolled off my tongue. 2 years left of eligibility. And I still would tell you today that I believe Venables is likely gone at the end of next season, but I feel today like 10 to 15% push towards the opposite direction. Whereas like before I was like 100% this guy's going to be toast end of next year. If they don't win 8 games, which I don't think they will, he's gone. And I feel today at least 10 to 15% moved more towards the opposite direction, more towards the middle, I guess you'd say, where I'm like, I think there's a chance for this thing to make it through just because the addition of Nagy. And I think that obviously the communication factor and the connection factor between those two, Jim Nagy and Brent Venables, is going to matter because the way that I heard an interview from Nagy the other day, and he basically said, no, I'm not going to be above or below. I'm working side by side, Coach Venables. And if this thing works in year one and they have, good chemistry off the bat, I think that they'll probably push it one more year. I think the people at the top at Oklahoma will see the future and see the potential with it. And if obviously Venables isn't running the program how Nagy probably foresees it, then they'll probably make a move there. But I think when you look at like from the recruiting perspective, Venables has done exactly the same of what Riley did his first 3 years. Riley finished 8th, 9th, and 6th in the Rivals rankings per team. Venables 8th, 9th, and 6th the last 3 years. And each of their first
Riley was better on the actual field.
Huh?
Lincoln Riley was better on the field.
Well, Lincoln Riley had quarterback. He was able to find a quarterback, right?
Who says that Lincoln Riley couldn't have done something with the quarterbacks that Venables has had?
Who's to say he could have? I don't know. We'll never know.
Thanks, Cody. He's getting fired. But
look at Lincoln Riley right now. What's he doing with Miller Moss?
Well, dude,
see what I'm saying?
Lincoln Riley would have been better. He would have been better there. He would have had Caleb Williams, and they would have like it's just that the whole trajectory of that program would have just been so much different. It wasn't like they wanted to lose those guys. He left.
Correct.
And like I always said, it's like this is the worst decision ever for OU. And look,
losing Riley, you're saying?
Yeah, because it's like this whole time. It's like, what do you want to do? You want what you would want is you want the enemy to say like to say you want to know who the enemy fears the most, right?
Yeah.
And it whenever you think about the enemy at Oklahoma, that's Texas. And what do Texas fans pucker up when they think about? They think about Bob Stoops and anybody in that dang tree of his, where it's just like if Hypo were to come back, right, or if Lincoln Riley or any of these dudes that worked under Stoops, like those offenses and that system, which is every year there was a quarterback. They always going to the DFW, stealing good skill position guys. Like it was a machine. It was like I couldn't believe that they just said no. We're going a completely different way, and we're going to go hire a supposed program builder from the defensive side of the football. It's where if we do bring in a hotshot offensive mind that goes and does anything like is a young Lincoln Riley or something like that, he's going to be gone to be the new head coach at Bowling Green or something like that after 2 years. And we're just going to have to rebuild the offense or hope that his quarterback's coach sticks around and we can make him the new offensive coordinator. And like, it's my whole thing about these defensive head coaches. I think fundamentally, man, I think at Oklahoma, they've lost their way with Venables. And I just don't think that they could be out to, I just don't think that they can be cast into the desert like they have for this past couple of years for, just in purgatory forever. Like they're going to come back to where Oklahoma is going to be a problem again. Yeah. And just like Oklahoma always knew that, dude, at some point, this is nice now that Texas is floundering and this whole Charlie Strong thing's a disaster. And, Tom Herman's a weirdo. And, but it's not going to be like this forever. Texas will be back. Look, Oklahoma will be back. It's just
sooner than later. Sooner now than they were before.
That's what I'm saying. It's like I I see that I don't agree with you that it's gonna have anything to do with Venables. Maybe it will. I could be wrong.
I'm not saying it has anything to do with Venables. I'm saying that I think the addition of Nagy may create a thing where they could push through and Venables could keep his job, because the one thing I think is wrong with this team is it has no basement. It has no basement level of talent. So when you get through and you've got these guys like the last couple of years, the offensive line, the receiver room, the running back room, quarterback, all these key positions, especially that's all offense, right? Where they get banged up or dinged up, where someone doesn't hit, there's nothing below it. Like there is now at Texas, or there was at Georgia, or there's been at Bama, or in yesteryear there was at Oklahoma, where there was always depth built in. I think they've lost their floor, they've lost their basement of talent. Maybe there's a better word for that, but that's just how I'm saying it. But they've lost. They've had good recruiting classes, but they've lost a lot in the portal. The last 2 years, they've lost 23 guys each of the last 2 years. And so that's 46 guys that have departed that were recruited in top 15 recruiting classes. And they've only returned that 46 with 28 guys so far. So 46 out, 28 in the portal, right? And of the top 150 guys, they've lost 11 top 150s. They've gained 9 top 150s. That's just in the portal. It's not like 150 recruiters or 150 top 150 in the recruiting classes in the portal, I'm saying.
So you're saying top 150 portal, but now they weren't top rivals, top 150 as recruits.
Correct. When they enter the portal, I think I forget about the original recruiting top 150. It's more so like where they are ranked in the portal overall rankings, which is like a top 2,000 rank, which is infeasibly impossible to rank as one human. But what I'm saying is that they've recruited well, but then they've lost a lot, and they've replenished it with not top end talent. So they're replenishing it with the same stuff we've been talking about, right? The Kennesaw States, the Western Arkansas, all this crap. And the hit rate on doing that is much lower. But what Nagy does is Nagy brings in what we've talked about last week is what has he done the last 6 years at the Senior Bowl? He goes out and he's able to find safeties, offensive linemen, running backs. You talk about Jeremy Chin and Nazir Adderley, who are guys that were drafted in the second round of the NFL. You talk about offensive line, you can go on days and days. The offensive linemen that Nagy and his team have been able to find for the Senior Bowl. Running backs, he's been able to find guys as well. Quarterbacks, you talk about all the North Dakota State guys, Sam Houston. When you're able to actually evaluate talent, and especially at the college level, which literally is what Jim Nagy's first job was a scout, right? He's been a part of 4 Super Bowl championship teams as a scout, and
he's very good at it, and he's got a ton of
built his own scouting team down there at the Senior Bowl. These guys have already been looking at the 2026 class. The guys that are the 2026 class that's coming up next year, of course, right? So not only like people think, okay, well, he just got this job, so now he's going to be, behind the 8 ball recruiting. This guy's Nagy's not even going to look at the class of 2026 high school recruits. He may, while he's sitting there, having his, 10 p.m. scotch and scrolling through a tablet, he may look at a couple of kids, but his focus during the day is going to be continuing to grind through the class of 2026. Who is a rising senior that's at UT Chattanooga, or that's at Western Kentucky, or that's, at a, Virginia Commonwealth. That's like, all right, where can I go get this?
At least between now and the opening of the spring window portal.
Bingo.
After that, he's going to, of course he's going to,
that's
things
what I'm
heat
saying.
up. Right.
Right. They've gained 11 kids in the portal this last window. So that's putting them a little bit behind the 8 ball as far as that goes. And God knows, like I just said, there's a lot of depth on this roster that could be churned through and upgraded. And I think that's a window where it may sound like nothing. You're like, well, Cody, why are you even thinking about this? Like, anything he could do now, it's, everybody knows, it's like you say, it's the dented can time of year for the transfer portal. But here's the thing,
no, it's different.
Beat it like a drum. There's few equipped. There's nobody equipped in college football right now to do exactly what Nagy's about to do, which is have all the connections, have all the resources, and have just gone to all these schools, talked to all these coaches, talked to all these strength and conditioning coaches, has the communication with the agents, all this stuff. Yeah, there's guys out there that have that, but I don't think to the level Nagy does. Nor do they have the track record of pushing these guys through to the NFL. Not that Nagy's coached them for the whole year or anything like that, but finding the talent. Imagine you go out and find like 3 offensive linemen this next portal window, right? East Carolina, Western Kentucky, whatever. You bring them in. Bedenbaugh now has 3 offensive linemen that Nagy sees as NFL upside, NFL traits. That's the point. That's
not ideal it's not ideal if you're not a fan of Oklahoma.
It's not ideal if you're not a fan of Oklahoma, and it's something that in the modern day of college football, which is continually modernizing, it can change the landscape of a team like that.
Yeah, but here's the flip side to it. It's that yeah. I mean, he's going to be good there. Like we've been over it ad nauseum. He's going to be good there. We got to get used to it. But here's the flip side to it is that they have been overthrown into the desert, right? They are there right now.
Yep.
And so the roster churn that you talked about that's going to have to occur with that team, it's Texas doesn't have that problem. And as long as Texas keeps winning and Texas stays ahead of the NIL game, which they're certainly going to. Sark has hired so many people to like. There's no way that guy. I'm not going to say he's a micromanager, but he's maniacal. He cares about winning on the margins. We know how important it is in college football. You got to win on the margins. That includes recruiting. That includes the portal. That includes all NIL, all this stuff. He's maniacal about it. CDC is maniacal about it. He's going to have every resource available to him. There will be no expense spared. Right. So as long as that continues to be the case, having a guy like Nagy, I think all it does right now is it helps Oklahoma to hopefully from their perspective, speed up their process to get back to relevance or to get back to sort of where they were. Right. And so because it's not like could Texas use one Alabama A&M senior Carson Vinson from last year coming into this next season, just in case Brandon Baker's not ready? Sure. Could they use one extra guard that reminds you of whoever we talked about the other day from Humboldt State, that would be able to push Nato Yamusalo / Cole Hudson? Yeah. But it isn't like across the whole roster. They've needed all this stuff. We've seen in the transfer portal, they've gone in and they identified that. I'm not sure that they could have. I'm not sure that Jim Nagy could have helped Texas find any defensive tackles that I thought were more suitable and just perfectly fine than Cole Brevard and Travis Shaw. I think it's kind of about equal, man. Yeah. Now it's like he might be like they would for him, they would definitely come from places where you might not be looking.
There could be a poach aspect to it as well.
A what?
A poach aspect to it. Like he may have a communication with one guy that he may have offered a Senior Bowl invite to this past season and had communication with, Bobby Brown at Tennessee Tech. And the guy was like, I'm going to go back to school for one more year because I'm going to get, $100,000 from Tennessee Tech. And I think I'm probably a 6th-round pick, right? And he had that communication with him, and then Jim Nagy gets this job. Hey, Bobby, I know you're not in the portal, but if you hypothetically got in the portal, you could come to Oklahoma and probably start.
Yeah, and make a lot. And you mentioned the $100K the other day. It's like we don't do 100K.
And I know that's illegal to do that. You can't. That's technically illegal.
Nothing's illegal with all this.
Coach, but there's no rules. There's no technical rules right now. So
yeah. Well, so I mean, that's the thing, man. It's that's where Oklahoma is. The good news for Texas fans is they're having to dig themselves out of a hole. It feels like they've got a new couple shovels there with Jim Nagy for sure. So you got to call it like you see it. I respect the hire, and we'll see. But yeah, that's a bigger deal, and it's in the ethos of Texas football and all the rest than anything that's going on with this Texas A&M cockamamie NIL stuff. Do you want to go into a couple of these topics that I had? I wanted to ask you this. Can you please explain it to me what all the fuss was about in our what on earth is going on today in the OB group chat about Cam Newton saying something about Sark's wife on his podcast, and catch him saying you just can't say something about someone's wife or whatever. Like, what is the what it? Not to go into the exact. I don't want to out anybody for what they said in our private chat, but this seems like it
I won't
pertains.
say anything that anybody said in our private chat, but I will say the Cam Newton video, for those that have seen it, it's made its rounds on Twitter, I think, today.
How did I miss this? Like everything that either relates to Texas or relates to some fried food that people make it or barbecue that they make into sandwiches on sliders. I see every single tweet about. So how did I not see a tweet about Cam Newton saying something about Coach Steve Sarkisian and his wife?
So you need to go watch it. It's about Cam Newton talking about the Texas culture. Players like Chris Warren have tweeted in agreement with or disagreement with the Cam Newton video.
Chris Warren?
Yeah, the running back. He said he made a tweet today. So let me get through this and then I'll.
Okay.
So first off, Cam Newton does a lot of these reactions. He listens to something and then reacts to it, right? So Cam's reacting to a video of Sark on the Kay Adams thing a couple weeks ago, a week ago, whatever it was. And Sark was explaining the culture at Texas. And Cam goes, right? And then he goes, culture. He's like, you can't talk something about you can't something culture's not real, something. He goes, Texas has all the money. He goes, culture didn't win those games, money won those games. And he basically went all in on like culture doesn't mean anything to what Texas's success has been. And then all of a sudden people replied, and it was like Chris Warren was like, listen, if you were in that locker room in 2015 and 2018, you know the camaraderie and stuff right now is totally different. But he didn't just stop
Warren
with like
that. So Warren was basically saying the culture used to stink.
Yeah, he basically yes. So
oh gosh.
So but before that, in that same video, when he was saying basically that the culture doesn't matter, money won the games, blah 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 blah. He's like this isn't this. He goes, this is NIL. NIL did all this. And he basically said Sark did nothing. He basically said Sark doesn't get credit for anything that's happened from a culture aspect. It's because of money. And then he's like, this is quote from Cam. Midway through this, he goes, I see everything. He's like, something. And then he goes, your wife is fly as F. I pay attention to a lot of things. All right. Matthew McConaughey. And he was like saying things, and the way he like what we were talking about in the OB chat was like there was some weird innuendo, like some weird things being like portrayed. And Anwar had a good tweet this morning, basically to give his thoughts. It sounded like he kind of just waited on a minute to give his thoughts. He said, this is from Anwar's tweet. He said, Cam Newton was a star, but Texas didn't land a number one class until they started winning. If culture doesn't matter, ask A&M. Number one in 2022, Jimbo gone in 23. More importantly, Cam Newton should remember NFL locker room code. Wives and kids are off limits.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, yeah.
And that's the thing we were talking about in the chat on OB was he brought up Sark's wife, and he didn't just say something. He was like, his wife, or he goes, your wife is fly as F. And then he said, I pay attention. Like, it was like really like not cool. And he basically said Sark was
so basically he's saying that
if I could cuss on this show, I'd cuss. But he basically said Sark was
I mean, money be on point as usual. When I feel even weird. Here's the difference between me and Cam Newton. There's a lot of them. But I feel weird even commenting about somebody else commenting on somebody else's wife.
Correct.
So
weird saying
I feel weird even commenting on somebody else's comments about another man's wife.
Correct.
So it's like, I feel weird even saying this, but what I will say though is that, you know how Cam is like, wears just the stupidest clothes, and he's very fashion.
Yeah.
Maybe this, who knows? Maybe he thinks like, he's like, all you wear is, what a like Kuyu shirts. Like, it's like he probably thinks my clothes are stupid. But I've never understood how he wears women's clothing and, all the rest of this weird hats. And so, I know that the Sarkeesian family is very like fashionable. So maybe he's noticed that there's like some cool fashion that he likes with them. Maybe he's talking about that. I don't know. It's an odd subject. Okay, so I can see why that was picking up steam in the old OB chat. It was going on during a time when I was writing or I was doing something else. So by the time I was done, I was like, dude, I'm not scrolling through all these messages to see what you guys are talking about. But definitely weird. And here's the other thing about the culture. It's like, I'll just say I don't feel weird about talking about Cam Newton. What I will say about him is, what does he really know about what it's like to build a culture at a school? Didn't he just go to Blinn for the longest time, then go to Auburn just for a little while?
He was at Florida when it was yucky, when it was like the Pounceys, Hernandez, Cooper, and Tebow, and then he left and went to Blinn, and then he went to Auburn for 1 year. He's never been anywhere long enough to see culture. And then he goes
still a Pouncey in jail.
What?
Is one of those Pounceys still in jail or something?
I don't think the Pounceys are in jail, are they?
Maybe one was. I forgot what even happened to it. Like, thought that maybe there was one that. No, it's probably not it. Maybe there was them wearing the free Aaron Hernandez hats or something like that.
That might have been it. I don't think.
Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, no, it's a correct take. Like they haven't. Like he literally hasn't been anywhere long enough. I think he was at Florida for a year, Blinn, and then to Auburn, and then he goes to Carolina.
Mr. takes on culture, and he talks about somebody else's wife.
And then the thing about being at Carolina that came out like a week or two ago was he basically said like that whole team sucked. That was garbage when I showed up. And that's what you get for being the number one pick. Like he was like trying to like give advice to Travis Hunter about like, wherever you go, that team's going to be crap. And you just kind of gotta be the one, right? And like, it was like, okay, well, I think your brain thinks you were like, yeah, you were a superhuman. Like you were Superman as a player for about 2 years, 3 years. But like, obviously from how he talks in the media and obviously how other players that he played with talk about him, he wasn't exactly the culture builder himself. So we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Thanks to the almost 600 people who watch it. Again, man, our show's picking up on X. A ton of people over on X, not quite as many here on YouTube watching live, but we do thank everybody that is here watching live on YouTube and keeping the Specs chat line going. We can't, we've been talking about Texas Beef Traders, of course. We've had the ad up for Poncho Outdoors, our terrific clothing sponsor here on this show and on so many other shows on the channel. But I mean, the big dog is, of course, Specs, and the Specs chat line is, of course, brought to you by Specs.
As a Texas family-owned business, we know you don't mess with Texas. And you won't find more ways to raise a glass of Texas-made cheer than right here. So whatever you're planning, we're ready to get you ready.
Yes, it's Football with Friends. Cody and Alex, we're here every night from 6 to 7 p.m. Central Time. Make sure and tell a friend. Tune in. We're always talking Texas Longhorns, SEC, NFL draft, NFL football. If it's football, recruiting, we're here to talk about it. There's been some position changes that Anwar reported coming into spring football. Cody, I think that's going to take a lot more time than we really have. So I think we should hold off and talk about that tomorrow. I think this one, to me, is a quicker one in a subject that I wanted to talk about. So let's table the guys who look like they're going to be moving positions coming into spring football, because there are just so many interesting offshoots from that I want to dive more deeply into. What it means for other players on the team, what we can learn from their usages before, all the rest of it. To a totally insane it's a topic that's for car talk radio, sports talk radio. So 2025 football team, we're not even in spring football yet. Who's the 2025 Longhorns football team? Who's on the Mount Rushmore?
Well, I mean, Arch.
Yep.
Colin Simmons.
Yep.
Ant Hill.
Yep. The fourth one was easy.
Is it though?
Yeah.
For me, it's between two guys.
Oh, it is? What's your first inclination?
Taff.
That's it. I can't believe it's it's so easy. That's the correct answer. The Mount Rushmore is Arch Manning, Colin Simmons, Ant Hill, Michael Taft. Who was the other one that you were even considering?
Wingo.
No, he can't be on there yet. Can't be on there.
Wingo
yet.
and then just an inkling of Trey Moore, but he hasn't been to school long enough to
Can't be on there yet. You got it right the first time. I thought that was gonna be something where we could sit, have a discussion, all that. I start to think about it. I'm like, it's Arch, it's Colin Simmons, it's Ant Hill, it's Michael Taft. It's like that's it. That's the show. Now you can email us fwfemails@gmail.com. You can find us on X at Alex Dunlap, at Cody Carpentier. You can follow our feed for the show at FWF_OB is where you can find that one. You can what else? Go check us out on Orange Bloods. Our writing over there. Cody's got a column up today. I got one up from yesterday. Bunch of good reporting from Onwar. If you're interested in sponsoring the show or sponsoring any shows here on Orange Bloods Live, contact Sunny Nelson. That's Sunny Nelson at orangebloods.com. You can call her at 512-924-4038. We are looking for a title sponsor here on Football with Friends. We love our great sponsors, but Sonny's actively looking for a title sponsor here from the show. So, if you're interested in that, please get in contact with her, man. The show is growing bigger and bigger, and it's thanks to you guys. All right. So if you've been here in the chat live for the show, that's great, man. There's going to be probably 30x of you more that watch this tomorrow, the day after, all the rest. We can't tell you how much we appreciate it. So thanks to our sponsors, Poncho Outdoors, Specs, MyPerfectFranchise.net, and Texas Beef Traders. Thanks to you guys. Thank you for telling your friends. Thank you for helping us grow. We can't tell you how much we appreciate it, how hard we work to make sure that we are quick, concise. We get in, we get out, we talk football. That's that, man. All right. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to talk some position changes, okay? Love y'all, man. God bless you. For Cody, I'm Alex. We're done.